Hi, welcome back. This is the third in a series of basics for Rhino 8, and this time we're going to get into 3D and we're going to look at the shading and rendering options. So this is nice bit of fun. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a cube, a couple of spheres, cone and a cylinder, and set up an environment, and then just hit render. And it's not far off as quick as that. It's very good rendering system inside the software. Okay, so this is where we left our last exercise in Basics 2. Now what we'll do is just scrap everything that's here. So I'll just grab everything and delete, and I've got a layer switched off, so I'm just going to bring that back and delete those objects too. For this I'm going to use kind of smaller objects in a way. So we're going to tweak the grid. So if you use the units command, okay, and then go to the grid settings, I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. So if you just copy these settings that I put in, so a minor grid line every 10 millimeters, major every 10 minor, and the snap spacing of 10 millimeters as well. So a bit kind of chunkier objects really. Okay. Right, let's just zoom out a bit. See what we've got. So firstly, we want to use some solid objects. So if we go to Solid Tools toolbar, and we'll start with a box. If you make your current layer just now, make it the default layer, and we're going to rename all these pretty soon. So we haven't done anything much with layers as yet. So gives us a good chance to play around. Okay, now what we're doing here, just checking the position. So 100 there, that's 200. Okay, so we've got quite a big area to work in here, so I'm just going to, we can move things around quite easily afterwards. So I'm just going to start my, don't need any object snaps on. Grid snap would be useful. I think we'll keep that on. So just pick a base point, and then in relation to that we're going to do our cube base. So it's at 160, 160, enter, and then if we press enter again, it will use the 160 for the height. So enter again. So we can't see there's any 3D there, so let's have all the viewports visible at the same time. So if we double click top, we can see perspective. If I roll back, find the cube. In this viewport, it's shift and right mouse if you want to pan to the side. Right mouse on its own is orbit. Okay, let's zoom out in these so we can see where the cube is. Okay, you can always use the middle mouse button and zoom extents. That helps you find objects a bit quicker. Okay, so a couple of spheres now. So standard sphere. Okay, I'm going to put one round about here with a radius of 90, and then a second one, so just press enter again, a second sphere about here, radius 70. Okay, now we can see in these side views that the sphere is centered on the ground, so half of it's kind of effectively below ground. We want these basically to be touching the ground, so we've got to move this one up by 90, and we'll need to move this one up by 70. So I'll just show you two quick methods. Okay, we'll do the kind of the standard move in this one. So that the move icon is pretty common on lots of toolbars because you kind of need it all the time. So you don't have to go back to the standard one to find it. It's actually sitting here on the solids one as well. Quite handy. Okay, so click move, click the object. So anything selected goes yellow. So it's not really a wise move to choose yellow for a layer color. I wouldn't do that if I were you. White's not too bad, but yellow is going to cause confusion. Okay, so pick the object, then it says press enter when done. So enter. Excuse me. Now we've got our grid active, so moving it by 90 would be quite easy. But if you remember how we drew the line in the first exercise, okay, we could pick a base point pretty much anywhere, and then in relation to that we want to go 90 millimeters. So the 90 is kind of now locked in. It won't go anywhere further than 90. If we hold shift, then left click, it will apply that move. Now the next one, I really like this. Okay, let's say we just have the perspective view visible. We want to move this up by 70. Okay, so get move again, pick the object, enter, and look here in the command prompt, there's a vertical option. Okay, so click vertical. Base point can be anywhere you want because it's going to be relative to this position. Okay, and now it's only going upwards or downwards. Okay, so we do the same again. We tell it we want to go 70. Okay, and you can see it's kind of locked now. It ain't moving. Okay, and because I put a positive number there, it's only going upwards. If I take minus 70, it would go downwards. Okay, so left click, done. Check the side view. Everything's exactly in line. Sweet. Okay, fourth object, we'll use a cone. And let's have the cone. I'm positioning things on purposely kind of close to each other so that we can see when there's color bouncing and when the reflections are working. So we're just kind of clustering the objects. So let's put a cone around about here. Okay, and the base radius for that, let's say it's 80. And then a height for the cone, if I pull this vertically, so we get a positive height, and a height of 140. Enter. Okay, and the last object, let's create a cylinder. Okay, just round about here will do. Okay, radius at the base of 70, and then if we just drag upwards and set the height pretty big, let's go 225. Okay, now these, we're kind of drifting into negative X positions there, so it's not a problem, obviously, there's no big deal. But if we want to move these, if you don't have a command active, it's really nice and friendly, so we don't need to get the move command. If there's nothing else active, just grab everything and then just go to one of the objects and you can move that wherever you want. Okay, we've not got ortho on, so it's not stuck. Okay, and escape. Right, I think everything else from here onwards is going to be in the perspective viewport. So let's just move this around and give ourselves a view where the objects are kind of overlapping and clashing. So I'm just going to pull my view down a bit. Something like that would look okay. Just so we can see reflections of objects. We won't be able to tell until we get reflective materials on, obviously. Okay. Right, let's modify some layer names now. So we'll need 5 layers, a bit more identified layers. So you basically double click a layer and then adjust it. So let's have this one as box. Okay, and the second one, lets me change it. Sphere 1, I should say. This one, sphere 2. So I'm just kind of double clicking. It's a wee bit laggy when you do it, kind of eventually it gives up and lets you do it. So sphere 1, sphere 2, cone, and the last one here, cylinder. Okay. Currently the current layer is cone, but I'll just put that back to box just now, not that it matters. Okay, putting objects onto different layers is pretty easy. If you click this object, I want this to be on sphere 1. So if I right click over the sphere 1 name, I can change object layer. Okay, click off and we can see the colors changed. Okay, another way, which is probably the one you'd most likely to use, is to click the object, then come down to here and it shows you the layer that it's on at the moment, and change that to the one you want. And just repeat that with the other objects. So this is the cone, and this is the cylinder. Okay, and like I say, this is basics, so well, people who've never used the software before, this is really what these tutorials are for. Okay, so everything's on a layer now. Now we could shade this now, and the colors of the layers will manifest in the shading. So if you just click your middle mouse button and use this option, we've got shaded viewport. Okay, so we kind of basically call this guru shading, but there is a hint of kind of shininess showing up, but it's pretty basic. Okay, press the middle mouse button again, and if you right click this, it will go back to wireframe. Okay, now there was another ball there, a blue shiny one. Okay, so this is what we call a render preview viewport. Okay, none of the objects have any materials assigned to them, so effectively they're kind of a neutral default material at the moment. And the shadows that you see, this is what's called what we call it again. Mine's gone blank. Oh, that's terrible. Hold on. Ambient occlusion. These words that you don't use very often. So ambient occlusion is what we call proximity shadows. So when things are near each other, the light gets stuck in between and can't do its work. So it becomes a shaded area. You'll see it all around you when you look around the room. Okay, and what we'll do though is add some materials to these. So we'll start with the box. We'll do them in the same order, and this is the column that we use on the layers tab here. Okay, I don't think I've mentioned before, but I think when you first load the software, these icons will be in the vertical position. Okay, and you can just right click in that tab in that panel and change them to horizontal if you want. Okay, so we're in the layers one, and then you've got properties, display options, etc. But we'll be coming back to rendering and materials later. So we'll stick with layers just now, and to assign a material, you just click the small circle. Okay, it shows you at the moment it's a default material, and let's go for something new. So you drop this little arrow down, click the plus sign. Okay, let's say I want to use a plastic base material. Okay, so it's starting to look a bit shinier, and what we'll do is make it blue. So we'll choose the color, and you could choose from basic colors, or you can make your own by clicking in the hue first and then in the strength of the color. So you're adding white to the blue here, you're adding black to the blue here. Okay, that looks quite nice, elegant color. Then click OK, and that goes straight onto the material. Sorry, straight onto the object. Right, let's make the ball, the two spheres here, let's make these shiny metallic materials. So let's go for another new material. This time it will be a metal. Okay, and let's choose color. And now you see, because we're in metals, it's actually giving us colors that more match those type of objects. So I'm going to use this standard gold, and OK. We want this to be super shiny, so let's increase the polish on it, and OK. Looks cool. Okay, but it's not really showing much. It's not showing reflections. The reflections take a lot more calculation by the machine, so they only manifest once we render this. So let's just try that. So we've got the rendering tab. Okay, and we'll not change any settings here. We'll just leave it as it is. Just go straight to render. Okay, and there you can see the reflections happening. So the shiny plastics are able to see the gold ball, and the gold ball's able to see the shiny plastic. Zoom in on that a bit, get a better impression. Okay, it's a bit grainy because we're on a very low quality. We're on a draft render setting there. Did you notice on this side we've got blue showing on the other objects? Okay, this is what's called global illumination. This is bounced light. So the light hits the blue box and then it bounces off and takes some of the color with it. So that's GI, global illumination. Okay, even at that, super quick render, it's pretty attractive. It's a good little render system. We'll close that. Okay, go back to layers. Let's add another material onto sphere 2. Okay, so really nice and quick. So metal again. We'll have this not quite so shiny. Let's have this a bit hazier. Let's say 60-ish. Okay, and the color for this, let's say it's silver, and OK. When we click OK, it goes straight onto the object. Right, I'm just going to tip this over slightly. These are going direct to the geometry that's on that layer. You can overrule this. So say we wanted this side of the box to be gold. Okay, Shift Control and click gives you control over any portion of an object. Okay, now if we right click over, no, we need to go to materials here, sorry, losing my way there. So if we go to the materials tab, it shows you the materials we've got in the scene at the moment. So if I right click over the gold one, I can assign to object and it'll only go to that face. Okay, try that again and we'll put silver on this side. So click once off the object to deselect that one, then Shift Control and click that face, right click over the silver and assign to object. Okay, now the names here aren't very helpful. We've got plastic, metal, metal 1. So let's rename that. We can just rename it here, or we could have done it when we defined the material. So let's call this hazy silver. Okay, let's rename this to gold. And let's rename this to blue plastic. Okay, so it just takes a kind of a generic name initially. What we'll do here is add a material for this. We'll take this from a library instead. Okay, so we could add a material, but we're only adding it to the scene in general. It's not going direct to the layer. So there's multiple ways of kind of bringing the materials in, but if we want it to go straight to the layer, then you're better to add it in the layers tab. So a new material for the cone. Okay, drop this down. We'll add a material. This time we'll import it from a library. Okay, and I think if we go to organic, we've got leather, and we've got red leather material. And open. Okay, these previews are tiny. They're not very helpful actually. They're so small. Okay, that. Okay. Trying to map a square picture onto a conical shape is going to be pretty much impossible. So that's where we're ending up seeing a kind of a seam on that. We're seeing a kind of join. Pretty obvious. But just be aware of that. It depends. If you're wanting that to look just right, it takes a bit more work and thought on how the material is applied. Okay, in cylinder, what we want to do here is put a material that's not going to show the seams. We don't want to see a seam on this. So what we're going to do is put material mapping coordinates onto the object first. Okay, so we'll click on the cylinder. Okay, and this is one of the properties of the object. Right. Before we go there though, let's bring this around a bit and make it a bit easier to do what we need to do. And we're going to need some object snaps here. So switch the grid snap off, put the O snaps on, and we want quad and center, because we need to be able to pick the center of the base of the cylinder and a quad point on the edge to tell it how wide a cylinder is. Okay, let's make that current just in case. Okay, so this is a property. Okay, and then texture mapping. These are the kind of the preset kind of shapes. We're looking at a cylindrical object, so apply cylindrical mapping. Okay, and then it's gone up to the command prompt. Okay, we're not trying to kind of guess sizes here. We use the command prompt. So it's saying, where's the base of the cylinder? So we'll find the center of the base. Then it's saying, what's the radius? So we're looking for a quad point. Okay, and then it's saying the end of the cylinder. By that it means the top of the cylinder. So this black shape is our mapping coordinate. So if we wanted to double the picture and the height, we kind of pick at this point. If we want the picture to go full height, we'll go up to the top and find the center. Capped, yes or no. So enter to accept the yes. That's it, done. Okay. Now what we'll do is just press escape to drop the selection of the cylinder. Okay. Right, now if we go and put our material onto the layer, so it's coming from a library again, so import from library, and this one we're going to go to the product design folder, and carbon fiber, American spelling, click OK. Okay, but hold on, we said we shouldn't see the joins. Okay, now what it's done, it's not using the coordinates that we've set, it's just using the kind of the basic inbuilt coordinates. Okay, so this is where we have to tweak the material. So go to materials, carbon fiber, this is all the properties of the material. Okay, we're interested in these two items here. Okay, if we change this one changes automatically, so we only need to change one of them. So pick the image file. Okay, scroll down a wee bit, and this is the important bit. At the moment it's using a box kind of application. We want it to use the mapping channel that we created. Okay, that looks a bit bizarre because it's the picture needs shrunk. It's huge at the moment. So if we double click inside here and put in 40, it looks really tidy. Okay, a bit smaller than that, a lower number than that, and it will look bigger. A higher number, it's going to look more grainy. Okay, we're only getting one join there, which is not going to show up on the rendering. So it looks much better now it's got its mapping assigned. Okay, if we want to lose that seam, I think we might be able to, oh, careful on that, Richie, don't do it that way. Probably better just to rotate the line 0. Probably better just to rotate the cylinder actually. Okay, looks good. Let's get our view back. Okay, let's go back to layers. I think we're finished with the settings for the materials. And let's do a quick test render, see what things look like. Okay, looks good, but we've kind of got this, you know, white background. It's very unrealistic. It's not; these aren't sitting on Arctic ice. So we've got options to change the background here, solid colors, or we can put in a 360 environment. we can choose an environment. So if we add an environment from a library, this is the one that you'll see in the video. So we'll use this BCN Airport, Barcelona Airport. Okay, it's automatically used this for the environment for the reflections as well. So when we render, we won't see this kind of fake set of lights. It will look much more realistic. So if I render now, oh, sorry, it hadn't automatically swapped that. Let's. Yeah, I thought it usually just jumped to its. So we've got to put that in again, using the same picture. Okay, being a bit pedantic there. So you can see here now that the reflections are picking up on the picture that's wrapping around the scene. So if we render that, okay. Now we've got, at the moment, there's a ground plane active here, but it's not showing in the render. So the ground plane is on, but we can use it as a material. And if we render that one, don't have a re-render button here, do we? Okay, let's render again. Okay, so that looks more credible that we've got this kind of plane, but it's a bit extensive. Let's put in a geometry instead that looks as if these are standing on a table. That'll look a bit better. Okay, so we'll not use the ground plane. We'll use shadows only, but we'll go back to the top view, and if we use the last layer here, let's rename this to table. So let's use caps, the same as the rest. And if we create a box, it's just going to be a bit more in front than behind. I want it to look as if these things are sitting on a table. So let's get further away. I can see my cursor in the viewport. So I'm going to put my table quite big, but more to the front. And let's go down a little bit. Okay, so that's on the table layer. Just got the default material. Okay, let's render that, see what it looks like. That looks good. I'm not sure why it's picked up the blue shiny plastic actually. I thought it should be on default. So let's just check that. Oh, because it's on the box layer, sorry. This wants to be on table. There we go. Fool of a took. Okay, render again. Looked quite nice with the reflections though. That's the appearance I was wanting. Okay. It's not quite behaving in reflections there. That's interesting. We should be seeing part of the environment on that cube, so there may be a little bit of a glitch there. So if we want a better quality render, so we're seeing the reflection here. Let's just adjust the view a bit. So let's go for a good quality render, and instead of this pretty small viewport, let's make it a bit more generous. Let's go to this 4:3 view, I think, and render. Yeah, that's better. Maybe it's just the angle was a wee bit steep, but still something a wee bit strange about that reflection. Okay, that needs saved. If you want to save that image, you save your rendering, and you've got a choice of different render types. EXR, very high quality ones. I'm just going to go for a JPEG, and call it my test render. Pop it on the desktop, and that should be it saved. Okay, I hope that's been useful to introduce the materials, mapping and rendering. It's very friendly, very quick, and not too technical methods used there. Cheers, see you in the next one.